Good evening, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and I am joined tonight by co-host number one, Nick, Kix and Comix.
What's up, everybody?
Co-host number two, I got to point that way, Kenny Caps, of course.
Hey, everyone. Station.
I'm sorry, Kenny. I totally cut you off by accident. And our guest of the hour, Matt Woods from Matt Woods Comics YouTube channel. Matt, how you doing tonight, sir?
You know, Gary, I'm kind of hot right now because I'm in a hot seat and I'm just absolutely terrified of the grilling and questions you guys are going to be giving me here tonight.
Oh, where do you see the dirt we dug up on you in the
there's a lot of dirt out there. I'm getting worried now.
So, real quick, before we really get going, why don't you give everyone a quick breakdown of your channel that may not be familiar with you?
All right. I'm a relatively new YouTuber, and I would not call myself a professional YouTuber. I just like to have fun. I like to talk about my personal journey through the comic book hobby. I talk a lot about Conan, talk a lot about Spider-Man, different aspects of collecting. But honestly, my channel is developing as I go. I don't really know what the plan is going forward, but we'll see.
Nice. And before we get with the first questions here, we're going to acknowledge the chat. So first want to say the first one in tonight was Master Blaster. Thank you for joining us. We got Chop and Drop, who's always supportive in the community. How you doing, Chop? All right. The bearded Avenger himself, Ruben Guzman.
Ruby G.
Joe from Anachronic Comics, who's also been on the show.
Giuseppe.
How you doing, Joe? And we got Squirrel Madness Comics. Thank you for joining us. How you doing?
I like the name.
My man, Squirrel Madness.
Right. And so to break it all up, first of all, Matt, super excited to have another Conan fan on.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, because you just had a video too about you finally figured out how to collect after 20 years.
It took me a long time, okay?
So what's your secret to collecting now that you got 20 years under your belt? What did you finally figure out, and why should they go sub you up and watch this video as a good introduction to your channel?
You know, that's a great question. And this is one of those lessons that I talk about in that video that we all know as comic book collectors. We know that these books are getting expensive. The big books, I mean, they're honestly, they're astronomical, the prices people are asking. And I'm a working Joe. I work a 9-to-5 job. I can't justify taking money from my family in order to buy these big, giant comic books. So I finally put in place something again, and it didn't take me 20 years to figure this out, but it's taken me 20 years to actually do it. I'm actually selling a lot of my comic books. I'm going in my drawers here, and I'm looking for doubles and triples, and then some of them I'm sending off CGC, some of them I'm selling raw, but I'm converting that cash that value that's already in a collection, and then I'm converting it in to get better and bigger books. So that's kind of what that video was about.
Nice. And also, one of the things that brought me to your channel when I was clicking through, I found you because your room is fantastic. But not only is it a great setup, but the colors are great. The red and blue together, obviously very Spider-Man-ish.
Yes.
But I don't see any. But as a big Conan fan, I don't see any swords up there, Matt. So I think you have to explain yourself.
There's a couple swords in this room, believe it or not. I have. Well, speaking of a sword, I have one right here. Okay, so
Nice.
There are definitely swords. I have another one in the back here, and I'm a military guy, so I have a little M1 bayonet hanging around here. So yeah, we're never shy on implements of destruction around here. So no, actually, this room was Reggie Collects. Okay, he had a contest on his YouTube channel of a comic book room makeover. Okay, and I sent in a video of this room, and this room was a room in my upstairs, and it was never a finished room. I bought this house from the original owner, and the gentleman built it. He built it himself in 1952. But for some reason, this room was a storage room. They put Christmas decorations, Halloween decorations, just extra storage. they never finished the walls. It was old 1950s brown drywall in here. And it was 1/4 inch drywall, which I don't even know if they sell that anymore. Okay. But anyhow, so people voted for me. I sent in a video of my comic book room, and they sent in a video to be, an upgrade. Well, I got some really cool frames, like the frames that you're looking here that came from Collector's Resource. But the problem is there's some really nice stuff here, and I have some nice books in here. I mean, my collection isn't the best, but it's improving every day. But I was afraid that if I was going to put that on drywall, it was going to fall. It was just going to break and fall, and that's just not worth it. So I ended up just going all in on this. And so my son and I, he's going to turn 16 here in a couple months. So he was 14 at the time. Him and I are the ones who actually redid this. We put new walls on it, and new lighting in. On it. There was one light bulb in this room whenever we started. It was we walk in the middle of the room and you had a little string you had to pull down. I don't know if you guys remember those old lights, but that was what was in here. And there was one outlet, so I had to do a whole lot of electrical. I put a new floor down, and then my dream was to get rid of long boxes. I don't know about you guys, but I hate long boxes. I hate moving them. I hate putting comic books in them. It takes forever. So I built my own long boxes, and I built these drawers right here, and they're all on, full extension sliders. And I can put my books in here, and I have them all alphabetized. Okay. So I can just look at the books that are in the front of these drawers to figure out exactly what books are in that drawer based upon, the following drawers. That has made my collecting so much better, so much easier.
And I like that little squeak. It reminds you of spinner racks.
There was a squeak. I did hear that. There it is.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, I think I may have to commission you, Matt, because I've had about 10 or 11 of those BCW new black plastic bins.
And those are pretty good. Trust me. I like those a lot.
But like you said, moving them around and finding a space where you don't have to keep moving them around is the tough part. Yep.
Yeah, that is the tough part. And I made these, and this is not finished carpentry by any stretch. This is just raw plywood. But I'm in my second story, and there's a lot of weight right in here with all these drawers. There's 48 of them.
Jukebox.
Yeah, but I ended up building them. I had two criteria. I wanted to build one drawer system. This isn't like all one big piece. This is its own right here, and it holds 4 drawers. And then I just have them stacked on each other. But I wanted them so I can make one drawer system out of one piece of melamine board for the actual drawers themselves, and a piece of plywood, a 4x8 sheet of plywood, so I can make the shell. And so I can make a whole drawer with just 2 sheets of lumber there, and then with the drawer slides. Also, I wanted to make it light, so it's a lot lighter than some of the other materials I could have used. That's why I went with the plywood. It works perfect for this room.
Nice. And can I ask, does that little door next to the drawers go inside John Malkovich's head?
It's too big.
That is a secret room that someday I will reveal the secret to, but not yet. That's a couple-year project down the road here. But people ask me that, and we keep the bodies in there. We just don't let them back out. Yes.
To a guy who grew up where I grew up, that's what the bodies are stashed.
No, I'm jesting about it being a secret. This house is it's built. It's an A-frame, so I have knee walls in here, and all that is back there, it's just storage space. It's just a crawl space that goes the length of the room itself.
And bodies.
And bodies.
So I saw you on oh man, I just blanked on his name. Reggie Collects. That's the first time I ever saw you. And that's like, as soon as I looked at this, I'm like, wow, that's either the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, or I saw it on Reggie Collects. And yeah, it's Reggie Collects. And I forgot that's where I saw you from the first time. And so it's amazing to see what has come along since then. I tried so hard to Reggie, look at my collection, because I have spent years building my collection. It's one of those things.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
he has so many people that comment on his videos that you're lucky to get like any kind of response, and he's like, haha, okay, yeah, so it's so awesome that you got to actually talk to him, and that's really cool.
Actually, I met him one time.
Really?
Yeah, last November he did what he calls a garage con. Okay, basically he opens up his garage, puts out some tables, puts out some comic books, and he sells some. I looked at it more as an opportunity to just go meet someone. But Master Blaster, who's in the chart, never met him before, but we both work similar jobs, so we know we can communicate with each other there. Yeah, we ended up meeting up the night before, and then we went to Reggie's house the next morning for his garage con. And there was a lot of other people there too.
Yeah.
But
that is one of the main reasons why I got my own YouTube channel, was because I started like getting into comic books, and like he was starting off at the same time. And so me coming out of the dark ages was pretty much at the same time he was starting his own channel. And it was so awesome to watch him grow. And like he's got so many followers now.
He's one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet. And it's a genuine like niceness. You and I are in the same boat, buddy, because I would have never started this channel if it wasn't for him. I told you guys about that room makeover. So many people reached out to me like, hey, what are you going to do with the room? What are you going to do with the room? And as opposed to typing it, taking pictures, to every single individual, I was like, hey guys, I'm just going to make a video of what I'm doing in this room. And I just posted on YouTube. Honestly, that's kind of how my quote YouTube channel got started, was because of him. So you and I, buddy, we share something in common here.
Yeah.
Well,
I wish I would have done that.
Documented it that way. Right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. What was that, Gary?
Oh, I didn't mean to talk about it. I'm like, you both have a love of history with comics too, I believe, you and Kenny. Like, history is a big part of why you collect with the books you have as well, is it not?
Absolutely. We talk about Conan. To me, Robert E. Howard. Okay, this isn't Happy Days. Robert E. Howard, and I've done that before too. But Robert E. Howard, I look at his books as from historical point of view. He grew up in the West Texas, the 19 teens and 20s, and he was writing in the 30s. But he wrote Conan from his point of view of the world at that time, and you can, as you read it, you can just see his life experiences coming out onto the pen and paper. Well, that's kind of like comic books, So I look at the Conan like that, and I love the ads in the back of comic books. Love it. You see the lead soldiers, which I don't think they can sell lead soldiers now. It's probably poisonous.
It's such a time capsule.
Yeah, and it is. It's a time capsule. And you get to see all that stuff. I love looking at the old submarine ads, and you see these kids standing in a submarine that's in their backyard, and it thing looks really cool. And until you find out it was actually made out of cardboard. I know somebody that had one of those back in the 60s. Yeah, and it fell apart on him. He said he left it outside and it rained, and it just basically disintegrated. But
yeah,
there's ads that look cool.
I wanted to know, too, because I don't know, you're what I consider kind of a premier collector. You've got a lot of nice books. But where did your love of comics come from? Like, what started you down the comic path?
This is a question I don't get asked very much. And somebody did ask me this, but it wasn't on YouTube. It was just in my private life. It was a family member. And they're like, how did you start? And I honestly had to think for a second, but I do know the answer. Back in 1984, okay? And I was 8 years old back then, maybe 7. Maybe my birthday hadn't happened yet. But my mother came up to me and she goes, hey, Matt, she did Publishers Clearinghouse, which I figured that out a couple years later. But she needed to get a couple magazine subscriptions, and there was comic books in there. And she got a subscription for my brother and for myself. And she goes, what do you want? Well, there was Spectacular Spider-Man. Almost went with that one. There was Uncanny X-Men, and I love the X-Men. But then she's like, Conan. And I just watched the movie Conan the Barbarian, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, maybe 6 months earlier, which I don't know if I would let my 7-year-old kid watch that movie, but it was a good movie. It was back in the 80s we were allowed watching a lot of stuff back then. So, but
That's right.
anyhow, it was just different. I don't know how to explain it. But anyhow, I love the movie. So I got that subscription to Conan the Barbarian. And the first issue that came out was Conan the Barbarian 163. And it had this awesome Ernie Chan cover on it. Hold on one second. Sorry, I'm killing dead time.
You are just fine.
Here we go. It had this fire Ernie Chan cover on it, and I absolutely loved that. The story was okay, but the art, it just got me. And I genuinely looked forward to my comic book coming in the mail every single month, because this was a subscription. It came in a brown paper sleeve, okay? And I really enjoyed it. Well, it was a 12-issue subscription, and there was a storyline that was going through. The writer, who actually, he's coming out, issue 300, he's going to be the writer. It's Christopher Priest, who back then went by the name of Jim Owsley. He was writing a storyline through there, and the storyline ended in the middle of my subscription. Or no, forgive me. My subscription ran out in the middle of the storyline. I always wanted to know how that went. Well, guys, I never really collected comic books as a kid. I really didn't. I remember as a senior in high school, I came across those 12 comic books. They were in my grandfather's attic. I'm not sure how they got there, but they were there. And I found them, and I reread these comic books. And I've always respected comic books, but guys, I always thought that they were for kids. I really did. And I remember telling a friend of mine, I said, I know these are, quote, comic books, but this is a really good story, and I want to know how it ends. But guys, this is the mid-90s. I live in a rural area, and there weren't any... Oh, go ahead. Oh, but there aren't any comic book shops around me, so I didn't know how to find the rest of the story. Well, fast forward maybe 8 years, and I'm in college. I did active duty Air Force first, and I was helping my brother move one time.
Thank you for your service.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And anyhow, my brother was like, hey, I have these old comic books. Do you want these? He was going to throw them away. And I'm like, oh, shoot, that's my old comic book collection. I reread them, guys. And again, now I'm like 25 years old. And again, I'm like, I realize these are comic books. This is a really, really good story. I want to know how it ends. Well, I had a college roommate who did collect comic books. And he goes, oh, buddy, just go onto eBay and then type in Conan comic lot, something like that. And then my whole world, it's like whoosh. I never realized that there was a world like eBay out there where there was just millions of comic books out there. Absolutely opened my mind. So
open your wallet too.
Yeah, eBay's a slippery slope.
I remember
Definitely.
the first time I discovered eBay, it was kind of like that soft summer night in Alabama. The first time I saw a pair of boobs, and oh my god, eBay was just a magical
amazing thing.
Yeah, and so I was like, eBay, where have you been my whole life?
It seriously, there's just anything you want there you can find on eBay. It's an amazing site. But it absolutely hits your wallet. So my college roommate, he introduced me to that. And guys, I wasn't a comic book collector at the time. I was a Conan comic book collector. So I collected every single Conan, and I started reading them. And I finished that storyline that Jim Owsley was writing. I liked it. I kept reading. I kept buying more. And I really enjoyed them. So I ended up buying all the Conans. You know, the first Conan the Barbarian. Then I found out about Savage Sword of Conan. I bought all of those, all the Conan saga. If Conan is in a Marvel comic, I literally own it. I mean, I have Foom 14. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see it back there behind Darth Vader, but I have them all. You know, the Savage Tales. I could not read enough Conan. Well, then Conan went from one. You know, or I was like, you know, these are really good comics. Maybe I want to read more. So then I started with Spider-Man, and that's another animal altogether, you know. So there's probably a lot more Spider-Man in these drawers than there is Conan.
Especially 80s and 90s Spider-Man is so good.
Absolutely. Well, there were 3 series going in. You had Spectacular, you had Web, and you had, you know, Amazing. And then Todd McFarlane in the early 90s kicking off the self-titled Spider-Man. So there was a point you had 4, you know, ongoing storylines at the same time.
Yeah, we all have our gateway characters.
So which one was yours, Kenny?
Superman, definitely.
You can't go wrong with Superman.
Yeah, but as an adult, like I just love so much of everything. Like I'm a huge Conan fan, but I have not read one Conan comic book. Like I love the movies, like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Like Conan the Barbarian is one of my favorite movies. I love it so much.
And that's more of a Carl Conan mix of a movie than anything, too. So that's not even pure. Kenny, if you're a Conan fan, you got to read the original Robert E. Howard story.
I know, and I want to. I have this thing for like tragic characters, and the fact that he committed suicide. It's almost like Hemingway, and Kurt Cobain, and the fact that they're like these amazing artists that were just so ahead of their time. Like no one could really comprehend what exactly they were producing. I mean, it's seriously until Tim Conway was putting Conan in Marvel in the 70s, right? It took like a good 40 years for like Conan to like become what it needed to be, Well, and that's amazing stuff, It really is.
I think Roy Thomas is a big part of why Conan survived as it is. And his partnership with Glenn Lord, because Glenn Lord had the vision to let them have the license to Conan for a cheap price when the other guys who had Thongor wanted a higher price and were demanding it. So Roy Thomas went with Glenn Lord, and Glenn Lord had the foresight to let that happen to keep the Robert E. Howard legacy alive. And I think that's why we still talk about Robert E. Howard today.
Roy Thomas, thank you, not Tim Conway. My bad.
So
we knew you meant.
with two avid Conan readers, how are those movies viewed by you guys? Are they just like forget those?
I'll let you tackle this first, Gary, because I definitely have my opinion on them.
Here's the thing. I love both movies for what they are. I have a lot of fun with Conan the Destroyer, which everybody craps on. I think there's a ton of redeemable qualities in it, and I think it's a fun movie. I don't think it's nearly as bad as everybody says, especially when you realize that it was put out by Canon, who was a crap company that just pumped crap out constantly. They bought any license they could and threw things together on a shoestring budget and put it out there to make money. So I thought Conan the Destroyer ended up being better than it probably should have been for what it was. And the first one I like. My problem is I love Arnold in the role too. He brings a lot of charisma and fun to it. But there's never been a true Conan movie made. None of the Conans we have, and Jason Momoa looks the most like the Conan that Robert E. Howard wrote. But that script was a mess, and that's not Momoa's fault. Momoa was a great looking Conan. He looked the way Robert E. Howard wrote him. And that's part of the reason why two of my favorite comic artists are John Buscema and Barry Windsor Smith, because they capture two different eras of Conan in Robert E. Howard's writing, in my mind. You got the Barry Windsor Smith, who captures young Conan fresh out of Venarium from the battle, and that's what a young Conan will look like. He's not grown into his full Conan physique yet. And then you got the John Buscema Conan, who's more experienced, who's been through the hardships, he's grown up, he's grown tougher, he's had the life experience. And those are two different ones. And the movies never represented that to me. They're more of a directors and studios wanting to do their own thing. There's so much Robert E. Howard material, and it boggles my mind that they just never adapted one story that he wrote into a movie. So they bother me in that level, but at the same time, I watch them all the time because I still love them for what they are individually.
I'm agreeing with everything that Gary just said. I do enjoy the movies. Conan Destroyer gets absolutely, torn apart. It wasn't that bad of a movie. It was just a fun movie.
I just don't like Grace Jones and,
Yeah, it was campy. It really was. But I just
you can have fun with it.
Exactly. You can have fun. Neither one were Conan stories. They were fun. They were neat. I absolutely like them, but and you cannot ever completely 100% adapt a book into a movie. They just don't work like that. Okay. But take one of those stories that Robert E. Howard wrote and put it into a movie. See what happens. If nobody likes it, never make another one. But that Jason Momoa movie, it panned. It didn't pan because of his acting. It didn't pan because of any actor. It was just a boring story. And
there were great actors in that movie.
Yes, there were. Okay. And it could have been good. It was just, why make an entirely new story when you have a plethora of material that's out there? And even if you don't take a Robert E. Howard story, take a Roy Thomas, story and adapt that to television. But that's so
Camp or Lynn Carter even.
Yes, anybody. But so that's my issue with the movies. But it's not the movies themselves. They just could have been better. That's all.
Right. They were the studio's version of their idea of what a Conan was, but it wasn't what Conan really is.
We need Gary writing the next movie script for Conan. Then it'll be on point.
Oh no, it would have to be a collaboration, Matt. You and I together.
Hey, I wouldn't be against VV for him to write one of those stories. That guy knows more about Conan you and I put together.
Now, I got to know if you agree with me. I think this Jim Zub run has been amazing. Probably some of the best Conan I've read in years. This last 12 issues of Jim Zub just gets the character.
I am really enjoying what's going on with Conan. I didn't know if I would care about the Dugan stuff and Savage Avengers because Conan just doesn't fit into the Marvel universe. Son of a gun if he doesn't. They have done a great job of bringing him into that, the Marvel universe, and he's interacting with, Punisher and Scarlet Witch and, all these characters. Dr. Doom had, just didn't know what to make of Conan.
Right. But Doctor Strange too. It's just funny. And he takes over the music.
I'm just enjoying Savage Avengers. And so, and
do you think they ever had like an issue like on like Demolition Man where they have to explain the 3 seashells if they're like, all right, Conan, this is how toilet paper works. So what you do is you just sit down and this is indoor plumbing, which, not in that era that you're from, but you just 4 or 5 pieces of paper, that's enough.
Why
I don't want to have that conversation with Conan.
You know why he works in Savage Avengers though? Is because they kept the character true to Conan is 1, he's a survivor. 2, he reads his environment. 3, he adapts, and he's not stupid.
No.
Conan's a survivor no matter where you put him. He adapts. And the same things, no matter the time period, get him in trouble. That's drink and women.
Absolutely.
It's the bane of all men.
But that's one of the reasons I like Conan is he's not a lughead. He's not just, a brainless, sword swinger. He's a cunning, thoughtful character that is always like being given difficulties. And they write him so well where he just doesn't survive it. He's not always the toughest guy in a battlefield. He figures out a way to persevere and survive. And that's why he's working, in the modern, Marvel series.
And he's got a strong core of values that he doesn't break.
Yeah. I wish more people, well, maybe not the slashing your enemies thing, but I wish more people had that, core values that they stuck to. And I think that's why a lot of people like that. They can see that even though he's, committing acts of violence, he is a morally just and good person inside of that realm of violence that he lives in.
He is. And I think one of the best things that Robert E. Howard did while writing those stories and why the characters resonated for so long is Conan's there in contrast to civilized people. And his character points out the savageness that's in civilization, the atrocities that civilized people meted out on each other in the name of civilization, and just how they just cover up all their faults and all the bad things they do to each other in the name of civilization. And Conan is just that he's that face-to-face guy that calls out all that bullshit.
Absolutely. And he, like you said, he calls them out all the time. One of my favorite comic series is It was an adaptation. Roy Thomas wrote it for Dark Horse. It was 12 issues. It was a Road of Kings.
Yep.
I absolutely love that series, and I've reread that series multiple times because it is exactly what you said. It is the contradiction between, quote, civilized land versus the barbarian. And without a doubt, he shows them the flaws of their thinking and their ways. They're 10 times more savage and brutal than this, quote, uncivilized barbarian.
Right. And backstabby and duplicitous and just morally corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got to ask you, too, as a fellow Conan fan, you obviously, your first issues weren't Roy Thomas. Mine were, because I'm older than everybody on the panel.
Mine was Michael Fletcher. Yep.
Yeah, so mine was Roy Thomas, and of course it was during the Ballet era, or Bailey era, however you want to pronounce it.
I don't know how to pronounce it either.
And so she's always been a favorite character of mine. And Queen of the Black Coast always has been a favorite story, along with Rogues in the House and what have you. It's hard for me to say I don't like any Conan story. I love them all. But,
it's so hard.
but Roy Thomas was my gateway into Conan, which led me to Robert E. Howard. And then I read the Robert E. Howard stories every year. Plus The Swordswoman, which is a fantastic story. The Dark Agnes stories are great. The Solomon Kings are favorites. I'd love to see that. And my hope, though, is that with this new Netflix doing the Conan series, is that we'll see a Game of Thrones budget thrown at it and actual adaptations from Robert E. Howard. Because Conan, for most of his life, was basically a Bedouin. He was a wanderer. And from trade to trade, from thief to pirate to Kozaki leader to a captain of the guard, he held so many different positions, so many different jobs, and was penniless, was rich, was penniless, was this, just back and forth.
Back and forth, yeah.
And man, if Netflix could do it right, the Conan seasons would just be him traveling with different paths and different parts of his career. You do a couple seasons, Conan wandering, you end it, and then come back with a King Conan series of him in his later years.
That's what I always wanted from the movies. I always wanted Schwarzenegger to come back 20 years, whatever. I wanted that King because they always end like, but that is a tale for another day. And I never got that tale. I didn't know
that. That voice needs to be on like radio, and that was amazing what you just did right there. Can you do that again? Try that again.
That is a tale for another day.
Yes. Awesome job right there, man. But
wait till you hear my Cobra Commander. But anyway, so like I've never even heard about a Netflix show. Like this is cool. Like I'm psyched about that, man. That's awesome.
Did they cast yet?
They had not, because the property was first over at Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got rid of it because it was deemed too
it's not fitting the cultural times at the moment. Right. Yeah.
It wasn't PC enough for Amazon.
Yeah.
So they dropped it.
And last September is when they announced that they were going to, Netflix picked it up. Now, there has been zero news, and I was just looking last week to see if there's any update on the news of Netflix and Amazon. So far, I haven't seen anything out there, Gary. Have you?
I have not, and I've been checking. And I'm hoping it's one of those situations where they just surprise us. It's in the can, and all of a sudden there's an announcement, and you're watching it a month later.
Oh, I hope so. And I'm with you. I hope they do it right. Everybody who's a Conan fan wants them to do it correctly. And you're right about if they can get a Game of Thrones budget or even one that's close, because that one went pretty high. Yeah. But if they can get, a solid budget, good actors, but it's just storytelling.
Even a Witcher budget.
What's that?
Yeah, Witcher.
A Witcher budget for their show, The Witcher. Even with that budget, Conan shouldn't take a lot of money to make.
Do you think that everybody's got those kind of properties now? Like Amazon has the Lord of the Rings, Netflix has got The Witcher, HBO Max has got the Game of Thrones prequel in
it's coming out soon.
I mean, and I hope this does end up happening, Matt, and works out, because that could just mean more Conan material for us to read that'll come out in comics.
Absolutely. And because that's the thing. Yes, I like the movies. Yes, I like comic books. I love the stories. I love to actually read the stories and just see how the character develops. I like seeing new writers, new authors, different take on a character because they all add something to the mythos. So, like we all admit to Robert E. Howard, he's the original writer, but in my opinion, he's the best. But the other ones still add something to the character.
There's
a
lot of great pastiches in there that I've loved reading. People have written great Conans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Steve Perry's done a couple great ones. You have Carl Edgar Wagner Edgar. I can't remember. You know who I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, I do.
And and also just some great artists over the years. But we talked a lot about Conan. Let's talk about some other stuff from you too.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm really curious.
Let's talk about Red Sonja.
Right?
Completely different. Yeah. Right.
Right. Yeah. No relation. Yeah. Now, obviously, collecting is a big part of your life, but what did it add to your life that wasn't there before? Once you really got hard into it, and you realized it wasn't just for kids, and that there was value in this hobby, what did you find that wasn't there before?
I don't know what I found. I have different hobbies in my life. I pick up different things. Like I decided I wanted to be a farmer. Okay, so my wife, son, and I, we have a small little hobby farm now, and we've made money off of it just so I could see if I could actually, make an income on it. But right now, it's literally we're not making any money. It's just we have pets outside. But that's one thing. I wanted to have a garden. I wanted to have an absolute awesome garden. And I was growing all kinds of vegetables. I was selling them in the local grocery store. And I'm always picking up new things. Carpentry, I just wanted to pick that in. Collecting, it's just another hobby that I like. It's something that I like to try. And I always have to stay busy. I work, I work 2 jobs, and I've worked 2 jobs since I was 15.
Hey,
and
you too. I work 2 jobs.
So you understand, and I always have to just keep myself busy. Very rarely will you see me just sitting in a living room watching television. I'm not saying never ever, but like everything has to be done, and it's just, even when I'm sitting there, I'm always anxious. What could I do next? So collecting is just kind of an extension to it. And I keep adding to the comic book hobby itself. I just started right here. You can see I started pressing comic books, and that was a new thing that I found out about last year. I am loving it. It's just another part of the hobby, different aspect. It's more than just buying a book and putting it in a long box. You have to be active with it. This YouTube channel is an extension of my comic book hobby, and I'm really enjoying this aspect here. You get to interact with a lot of people. You 3 guys right here, it's great. People in the chat, although I have to apologize, guys. I can't see the chat. It's not showing up on my screen.
Hold on, I'm going to make Nick big because I think he's trolling us, Matt.
So what happened is Rob said,
ASM 300.
If you're being held hostage, let us know.
Right, because we've been talking Conan, and Nick's a big Spider-Man Angel fan.
I have a great story for you, Nick. Years ago, I bought a ASM 300. It was slab 9.4. It was an old label. Okay, I bought it maybe 2000. Actually, I can tell you, I know where I was living when I bought it. I bought it in 2005. I didn't pay a whole lot for it. It was a 9.4. Now, fast forward to the year 2020, November. I was looking at the book, and I knew, since I learned about pressing books and grading and regrading them, I'm looking at this book, this 9.4 slab, and it was wavy, but the corners were all straight. There was no spine ticks on it. I'm like, I'm going to send this book back in to get to get pressed and regraded. That book came back at 9.8. That's one of my favorite books and favorite stories in my hobby, or in my comic book collection.
Can I tell you my ASM 300 story?
Can you please tell me your ASM 300 story?
I had bought an ASM 300 back in 2011. At the time, it was the most I ever spent for a book. It was about $700 for a 9.8. I sold that book in 2017 for $2,400.
Nice profit.
Nice profit. It's worth 3 times what I made the profit off of today. So if my ceiling was high enough and I had a rope, I'd probably hang myself. So I just got into pressing to myself.
Okay, but that's the thing, though, Nick. Like I literally but right before I got on this, CGC just put out an article about how they're expecting this 9.6 AF-15 to actually sell in like 2 weeks. They're expecting to go over 2 million, and it'll be the first Silver Age comic book to go for over 2 million. And so it's just inflation. It doesn't matter when you sell, because the future's it's gonna be worth more. It doesn't matter. The fact that you made that's like a 78% profit.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's really awesome. And you should glass half full that shit and be happy you made such a profit.
Spoken like a guy who's probably sitting on 15 copies of Amazing Fantasy 15.
No, I only have one.
Only one. My gosh.
So
that's one of my dream books there, AF-15. I have to sell most of the collection to get it to.
Yeah.
What kind of guilty pleasure comics do you have? Like things that you read that don't fit in with what you normally read, that are just like you don't know why, but you just absolutely love reading them and it brings you joy and it's out of the ordinary for you. Anything like that?
I don't think it's out of the ordinary, but somebody found out that I have a full run of Spawn. Actually, I think I'm missing 3 just random, filler issues. But for the most part, I have a full run of Spawn. I don't think that's out of character for me, but they were absolutely, really, you're a Spawn fan. They just didn't see me as a Spawn fan. So, but I love that story. Todd McFarlane started it back in '92, and I think it's kind of similar to Conan, where he's not a true hero, if you will. He's an anti-hero, and he just has to do, fight his way through, but he's a morally just character. So I don't know if that's a guilty, pleasure, reading pleasure of mine, but some people think that just doesn't fit my hobby here. So what's yours there? What do you guys have that's your guilty pleasures? I'm turning it around here. Putting you guys in the hot seat.
He's putting us back in the hot seat.
Well, Gary, you want to start with that one?
I don't know. I think all my guilty pleasures are out in the open. Like,
that's
Black
the way
Cat's
I am.
In a book, I'll read it. I'm a huge Black Cat fan. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows I'm a huge Jessica Drew Spider-Woman fan. I'm a big Carol Danvers fan. If they're in a book, I don't care what it is, I'll read. I read the Marvel Action series, the kids series, because Captain Marvel and Spider-Woman are in them. And I don't care what the story is, I'm reading it and I'm having fun with it.
DC put out a series. It was only 12 issues long. It was back in the earlier mid 2000s, 2004 or 5, somewhere in there. It was called Hard Times. And it was a supernatural type of comic book. This underage kid going to a prison because of this crime he committed. He was tried as an adult. But it's a great read that isn't superhero-y. It's just kind of a supernatural storyline. But if you guys ever find that in a comic shop, pick it up because you will absolutely love that. It's a 12-issue series. Hard Times.
Now, we know about your mainstream interests. Are there any indie books that you've gotten into that you absolutely love, or do you delve into that at all?
I'm going to call it indie, but I think it's as mainstream as could be. Something is Killing the Children. To me, it is just fire. James Tynion is Tynion. Forgive me. James Tynion is just absolutely killing that series. And he's written a lot of good stuff, but Something is Killing the Children's good. I'm absolutely loving the Image series, Geiger. It's I don't know if anyone has read it, but it's a post-apocalyptic world, and it's a little bit of supernatural stuff too. But absolutely killing that is Geiger. Love that book.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, you should have Tynion on speed dial after your interview.
I was shopping at my local comic shop, and guys, it's a small town, Evansburg, Pennsylvania. I think there's maybe 3,000 people live in that town. and it's a super small comic shop, super great owners. It's called Codex Comics in Evansburg. Love the place, okay? But I was in there, and like I was just picking up a Something Is Killing the Children book, and I was like, the owner, I asked her if she read it because we've talked, and she hasn't read it yet. And she goes, no, I haven't read it yet. The guy who wrote that, he's going to be here on Free Comic Book Day. And I just kind of like, she said it so nonchalant. And I'm like, this is James Tynan. Okay, this is like, one of the biggest writers out there. And you're just chalantly dropping that news there. And I couldn't believe it. So he was at this comic shop. And honestly, guys, there was 20 people in line. I don't know how many people showed up after I was there, but it was just a really quaint, nice environment. It was really nice. I did get a chance to interview him. You saw it on a video that I put out there, but it was just, it blew my mind that I could be in a small comic shop, and right there is this mega star of comic book writing, right in front of me, talking to me, just like you guys are talking. So he's a super nice guy.
He's going to be here in Dallas next month, and I'll have to pay $150 and fight hundreds of people to see him. And you got that chance. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and honestly, after he signed 3 books, did an interview for me. He was so gracious. I was like, wait, I owe you money, because you normally have to pay for a signing. Although I've only ever been to one other signing other than that one. And he goes, oh no, that's just just signing books. So that's how nice he is. Yeah. So I really, really lucked into that chance meeting with him.
Nice. Awesome.
But Gary knows about another big superstar in the comic industry that I am going to have dinner with here next month.
I wish I could go with you and Joe, because
I hope you can get there.
We switch jobs and I can't get the time. You know what's funny is you said you're in Pennsylvania. You and I don't live very far away from each other.
No, you're up by Rochester, right?
I'm in Rochester. Yeah.
In Rochester. Actually, a friend of mine that I work with on one of my second jobs, he's a police officer up in Rochester. Great guy.
Nice.
Yeah, you're only about 2 hours from me, 2.5-ish.
Where you live at?
I'm from Loudoun County, Virginia. It's outside of DC.
I know exactly where it's at. Yeah,
I got an uncle that lives in Philly on South Street, and it takes me about 3 hours to get there. Okay. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Dutch Wonderland. We were just there last weekend.
I have heard of it. I've never been here. I actually live on the western side. I'm a lot closer to Pittsburgh than I am Philadelphia. But I have heard of Dutch Wonderland. I just never got a chance to get there yet.
All right.
So Marty Aleko wanted to ask you what you thought of Proctor Valley Road. Because I read that too, and man, I had mixed feelings about that series. I didn't like it as much as everybody else did.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I've heard of that series. What is that? Who's putting that out right now?
It's done. It was 5 issues, and it was Boom Studios, and it was good, not great, in my opinion. Really, really weak wrap-up issue in issue 5. They set up a bunch of stuff, and then basically the big bad was handled in an issue really quickly, like they were nothing. So it was like a 4-issue buildup, and then yeah, I'm like,
just a big letdown.
Right.
I wish I could speak more knowledgeably about it. I've never read it. I read a lot of comic books, but there's always that one comic series that somebody asks, "What do you think of that?" I'm like, I haven't heard of it. That always happens. Yeah.
I get that all the time, Matt. Because I don't read anything new. I've got a laundry list of stuff that I've promised everyone I'm going to read.
Mm-hmm. The best series. One of my subscribers, he doesn't live far from me. One of these days we're going to meet up, but he recommended me to read Invincible. And he messaged me, honestly, 10 times. He just tell me how good this series was. And I'm like, I'll pick it up and read it. And I read all my comics digitally. Like, I have all these books. I buy floppies, but I read my books digitally. So I was able to read that. And I wasn't able to pick up Invincible #1 or anything, but I love that book. Invincible. It is a 144 issue series, phenomenal. And I read it more because I just wanted to be able to talk about it, with a little bit of knowledge, so that I wasn't completely in left field while everyone else is having a conversation. I absolutely am glad that I did read that eventually.
You know, and I have to agree because I just finished it probably about 2 months ago.
Okay.
A friend in the community had lent me the 3 compendiums, and honestly, I flew through those. And
I couldn't put them down. Yes.
Couldn't do it. And the way I felt is about each character in that series, I was satisfied with. You know, they delved into each one very substantially. And that's what I enjoy. I liken it to my Breaking Bad of comics, so to speak. Because from beginning to end, I just loved it. It was fantastic.
The whole I mean, it was just set up so well. And I don't know if he had a outline of where the series was going to go and end, or if he was just writing it on the fly. But everybody, every character, and from the whole series, from the beginning to the end, was just so well developed. Mm-hmm. And you're right. You were satisfied, and you felt you cared about these characters, or you didn't like them. You know, some of those characters are absolutely unlikable, but they were written in a way that you're like, I don't like that person. And when you get that emotionally involved in something you're reading, that means you got a really good writer. So I love that series.
Yeah, and Slim, for sure, if you guys have not seen the show on Amazon yet, watch it.
I still have to catch up with that, Nick.
Excellent. I'm telling you, Gary, you might think the first episode is slow, and like the last 5 minutes will just blow your mind completely.
Well, I hear it's good, like The Boys is good, and I've been loving The Boys.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Maybe not as over the top, but there are parts that are over the top, and it's jaw-dropping, some of the things that happen in that series.
See, I like the series, or forgive me, the Prime series, the animated series, but it was different than the comics. But it was different in a way that the Walking Dead comic is different than the Walking Dead TV show. Mm-hmm. You have the same characters, but the storylines are almost the exact, but there's just enough of a difference to where when you're watching the show, you don't feel like you're just going through the comics or vice versa. So I like how they've done the TV show versus the comic books.
I won't spoil it, but I'll just say by the end of the series, you'll view subway riding quite differently. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, just dropping that little tidbit out there. I see you.
So I have to ask also, because I've noticed 1602 there on the wall. I've noticed it also before in the first rack of books. Is that a favorite story of yours?
No. I actually don't like that series. I find that was one of the most boring comic book reads that I have ever had. That series, when it came out, 2000, whenever it came out, mm-hmm. Neil Gaiman wrote it, okay? The writer of Sandman, a lot of fanfare. This was on the preview magazine covers and stuff. I'm like, I'm going to give this a shot. And I think I paid like $18, $19 for the 9.8 slab that's over there on the wall. I didn't invest a whole lot of money, but I read the story, that had all this hype and, glamour to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was one of my absolute least favorite comic book stories in my entire life. But Neil Gaiman has written some really awesome stuff, over the years. It's just not one of them. So
it's just basically there to remind you that things can always get worse.
What I need to do is sell it, is what I need to do, and flip it and buy something else. But I just have a slab. All my slabs are on the wall in this room at some place. And because of my books are in alphabetical order, well, I started off the numbers at the beginning as opposed to the end. And that's why 1602 is on the front of that cabinet. Because I've thought about it. I'm like, it's one of my least favorite comic book series. And I have it like multiple places in here. So, yeah. Some people think I'm into it, but trust me.
So Marty's got a question for you. We'll take one from the chat here. He wants to know what your favorite comic to show or movie adaptation was.
Oh, that I think I already answered that question with The Walking Dead. And again, I say like this, which is funny because the writer for The Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman, is the same guy for Invincible, which is what I was talking about. The comic book series, in my mind, is better than the TV show. And the TV show, I love. It's the same characters, but the storylines are just enough different that it keeps you interested. Like, you don't know what's going to happen next on the TV show because it's not the exact same as what the comic book series is. So I feel like they did that a great job where it was still true to the original source material, but just a different enough to keep it interesting. That's a great question, actually.
Have you been watching the new What If?
I saw the first episode with the Captain Carter, and I have not seen the second one. And has the third one been released yet? Or actually would have been released yesterday.
Wednesday.
It's like Loki based.
Oh, I definitely got to watch it then.
It was good. Loki, Nick Fury, Black Widow. It's the What If the Avengers were killed before they became the Avengers.
Okay. This is gonna I really did enjoy the Captain Carter first issue or episode. I call episodes issues, but I just thought it's a what if. It's not like canon or anything. It's just fun little adventure into the fantasy world of what if.
I would have never taken them seriously. Like, I never. Who's gonna waste their time reading what ifs back in the day? But because of the whole branch of reality with Loki, now I'm like, holy crap, everything has to be put under a microscope. And I will absolutely watch these what if episodes 6,000 or 7,000 times.
They're, the what if stories are good. One of my favorite comic books of all time, a one book, hit is What If, and I forget if it's 43 or 39, but it is, or it might be 13. But anyhow, it is What If Wolverine fought Conan the Barbarian.
And he marries Red Sonja and cuts off Conan's hand.
It's so just such a fun romp of a story. And I still feel like Conan won at the end. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And I have a couple of those. I have like a couple copies of each of the Conan What Ifs.
Okay. There were 4 of them that they made. And there was a What If he battled Thor, modern day, and
right. There were 2 modern day ones.
Yeah, 13.
Yeah, okay.
Modern day.
Yep. But now that's I hope that they put that Wolverine Conan What If on the series, because have they listed what shows are going to put out on that yet?
I don't know if they could do Conan though, because I don't think they had the television rights to Conan. So I don't incorporate them.
I think
you might be right.
The episodes, they're going to do 1 episode per movie that they've had. So
okay. And there's a lot of Marvel movies.
You know what was so good about that first one though, Matt? And you can let me know if you agree. Not only they got Peggy Carter right, and of course I love Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter. She made the whole character just incredible. But they kept the love interest between her and Steve true and pure. It wasn't about Steve being Captain America. It was about Steve having a hero's heart. And they kept Steve, even though he didn't become Captain America, no matter what form Steve's in, he's a hero. He's got a hero's heart. So they were respectful to Steve, they were respectful to Peggy, and they were respectful to their love. And that's what made that whole episode work so well.
Without a doubt, and I don't just want to agree with you, but like, you look at things the way I do, Gary, and you're right, because what makes Captain America such a great character is not his superpowers, it's not his ability, it's not the physics-defying logic of how he throws his shield and it bounces off and comes back to him every time. That's not what makes Captain America. It is his, perseverance and is always trying to do the right thing. And in that first episode, he was still a hero. He still tried to do what was wrong against insurmountable odds. And you're right about that. And the love, it was still there. She was a superhuman. She could have had any guy she wanted, but she still was in love with Steve. So I agree with that assessment you had.
Because Steve had that great booty.
I guess it works for him, so let him keep going with that.
America's booty.
So what if you could have them make a what if that's non-Conan? What if story would you be hankering to see?
Good question.
Oh, that is a great question.
What if Conan had short hair?
No, it can't be Conan. That's too easy.
Can't do Conan. I'm thinking, what if Spider-Man never got rid of the black suit, but it didn't turn into Venom? I kind of like that idea. I've thought about that idea in the past where, he got the suit in on Battle World and Secret Wars. And what if it just kept changing his personality and, he just kept having to fight the urge to just go to a darker Peter Parker? I think that would be a good storyline to see where it would go. But I think eventually that story would come to an end. But I'd like to see that into a what if.
So
they actually just did it. Spider Shadow.
When did they do that?
The last couple months. It was a 5-issue comic series. It was really well written by Chip Zdarsky. I thought
Chip Zdarsky owes me some royalties, okay? Because that's my idea.
It's a good read.
That's hilarious because I honest to gosh never knew that he wrote that.
They just finished up, I think, in the last 2 weeks was the last.
Yes. Did you read it, Nick?
I did.
It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the art, but the story was so good you didn't mind the art.
What is this series called again? Because I got to write this down.
The Spider's Shadow.
Wait, I have a couple issues of that. I haven't read them. I didn't know what they were. Spider's Shadow. Okay.
Yep, 1 through 5, and they leave it open for a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
I have issue number 1. I pick up ones. I didn't know what series it was about, but it was an issue 1. So I'm like, I'll just pick it up. I was just in a LCS one day, so now I need to get 2, 3, 4, and 5.
There you go.
But it's right down that road you just said. It's a Chip Zdarsky. I mean, he's got to be one of the most stable writers out there right now.
Yeah, everything he puts out is just fire.
Him, Kelly Thompson. So now that we're talking about writers, though, who do you think? You already mentioned Tinian. Besides him, who do you think some of the premier writers are right now that if they're writing it, you'll give the book a try?
Jeff Johns. He's one of my favorite writers out there. Like, doesn't matter what he's doing. I absolutely enjoy him. The writer who I have to do a video because Conan the Barbarian, the original series ended with issue 275. Yep. And they've since restarted it. Issue 24 came out on Wednesday. Next month is issue 25. And it's one of my... What's that?
The 300th anniversary issue.
The 300th, quote, anniversary issue. That is Christopher Priest, okay? And he's a little-known writer. He's changed his name, actually, which is, I don't know what the story behind that is. He also goes by, just Priest. But he's an interesting writer, and I've always enjoyed what he has written. There's a lot of great writers out there. And right now I'm drawing a blank because I'm put in a hot seat, and I'm melting right now, gentlemen. So,
and see, I'm a big fan of Kelly Thompson. I think she's another one of those writers that everything she writes is great. Like her Black Widow series is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Captain Marvel, she's killed it for 2 years on. But this new Black Widow series, I just read issue 10 tonight before we got on, and it was so good.
That series is coming to an end soon, isn't it?
I don't know. I hope not. It's so great.
Yeah. I've read a few of those issues, and I absolutely like those a lot. Robert Kirkman, he's another writer that I think everything he does is just amazing. And
Scott Snyder's Noctera. I've loved every single issue of that. I can't wait for it. Every time it comes out, it's one of the first reads out of the bag.
And it's on hiatus until the winter now, right?
Oh,
really?
They're taking a break after 6 here?
Yep.
I did not know that.
See, one of my friends on Instagram, a super honorable nephew, that guy puts out posts all the time, and he has literally, and I don't know how many different variant covers there are, but he has multiple covers of every variant cover in that Noctera series. I don't know anyone who's ever enjoyed a comic book series more than that guy. But if you guys check him out on Instagram, it's super honorable nephew. You will see just Noctera posts after Noctera posts. It's quite impressive, the collection that guy has accumulated.
Did you get that 1 in 25 Conan cover this month?
Yeah.
Man, was that amazing or what?
I love the art coming out on the new Conan series. But yeah, Gary, there's an OCD part of me. I have to have every copy and every variant copy of Conan, and it's like a disease where I just, all right, there's another 1 in 25 or another 1 in 50. I'm like, okay, what comic book am I selling to fund this hobby this month, with all these variant covers.
So I have a question that's going to change things up just a little bit. In honor of Jimmy and Slide It Up, they always talked about music.
Okay.
All right, Matt.
Music.
First concert, best concert.
First concert, I was 1990. It was a Grateful Dead, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Bob Dylan concert. It was in Pittsburgh. Are you
tripping right now?
We got a brother.
That was just an awesome concert to go to. It was very laid back, and that was my first experience. So I was absolutely loving that one. But that's a good one. I don't get asked concert questions. I used to go to shows all the time. And I told you I lived in Laurel, so there was always some show between DC and Baltimore,
absolutely.
Or the area to go to. So I used to go to a lot of shows.
First concert, best concert, were they the same?
No, Iron Maiden. Okay.
Yes.
Love
Maiden.
I used to buy Iron Maiden albums, and I would play them every now and then. I'm like, all right, I like this. I went to see them one time. My brother got me tickets one time, and I was blown away. I mean, by the theatrics, and you had fireworks going off, and you had this giant zombie, mannequin that was floating out over the crowd, and they are just so high energy. I've probably seen them a half a dozen different times. In fact, I think it was just last year or the summer before. I took my son to go see them, and it was my brother, my nephew, and my son and I. And dude, they are so good, and they span decades of just high energy. But you love them also, you said?
Yeah, I'm a big Maiden fan too. And what's amazing is getting to bring your kids along to see any band that you love. Like, so you mentioned Grateful Dead. My Grateful Dead is a band, Cold, and I can't wait. They have an insane following. It's really crazy that how many people just adore this band. And I look forward to the day that my kids are old enough to take them to shows, because that's going to be great. I'm already trying to influence them so much. This is what I love. You should love that too. It doesn't always work out that way.
It definitely doesn't always work out that way, but it's hard because you have a love for these, musicians and, for years, and then you're you want to share it. And sometimes my kid, I actually like my kid's taste in music. I like it a lot, but there are certain bands that I just think are phenomenal. He's they're ho-hum.
I know.
Not sure how that works.
Yeah, my daughter loves the Disney princess songs, and I just don't want to hear that,
I hear you. Yeah.
I always liked that Alexander the Great song by Iron Maiden. I don't think a lot of people know that one. I forgot what album it was buried on.
That was one in the early 2000s, I think.
But it was
The Wicker Man, maybe?
I don't know. I don't even think it was the 2000s. I think it was in the 90s or just before.
Okay. I definitely heard it. Yeah. So,
go ahead.
Do you guys have any bad concert experiences?
I don't know.
I definitely have a lot of concerts I don't remember.
That was a good concert then.
Always had fun at concerts, man.
I've had a few that the band live was just completely different than what their studio albums are. I've seen that happen a few times. Or you're just very disappointed. Yeah.
I
think my worst experience was seeing Aerosmith.
Aerosmith. Okay.
I adored Aerosmith from the time I was 2 or 3. Because my parents love Aerosmith. And so I finally got to see them. ZZ Top opened up for Aerosmith so it was.
What a concert.
Yeah, right. It was at the time Nissan Pavilion. Yeah, I think it now is they Jiffy Lube Live. They've changed the name of the venue.
Okay, I was gonna say I remember the Nissan, but
it's Northern Virginia. So anyway, ZZ Top opens for Aerosmith. ZZ Top killed it, and Dusty Hill, God rest his soul.
Just recently,
Aerosmith gets on stage, and they had already been having their problems. Steven Tyler was already battling his problems, and addictions and things. And he sang so many songs from like the way we were sitting, you could see his like little small karaoke machine, and he was reading lyrics as he's singing. It's like, dude, you wrote these songs, man. How do you not know the content of your own songs? So, Steven Tyler was amazing. Like, he's such a Joe Perry, my bad, the guitar player.
Okay.
Such an amazing guitar player. Steven Tyler as a performer, a lead man, very underwhelming, that show. So it was disheartening.
I hope that's just that show because, I'm like you. I've always liked that band. So I'm hoping it was just a one hit or just a bad night where he just needed a little help or something. But
see, one of my best, most fun shows I ever went to, it was the B-52s. And who opened for them was the Violent Femmes.
Man! And the Violent Femmes open up for the B-52s?
Yeah, and
that's insane.
They were both spectacular. They were both on the same level. Both of them were fantastic. It was just so, and they both sounded absolutely incredible live. You went there just like you popped the CD in. Their live sound was great for both of them.
Yeah,
and it was like one of the best opening main act combos I'd ever seen. It was just pure fun, start to finish.
So Matt, you like my Meku voice for Conan?
Yeah,
the guy from B-52s. Sign says, "Stay away, fools, because love fools at the Love Shack."
Dude, you got a second career going on, okay? I'm just absolutely amazed with how you do this stuff. Do you work at it or is it natural?
It just comes to me. It's just part of the ear.
I like it, man.
That's one of my biggest regrets right there. I never got to see Prince live, and I grew up on Prince. I have CDs of his that people don't even know he made.
Yeah, Prince was a shit. Amazing guitar player.
Like every week for a while. It was amazing.
And he was a great basketball player, too.
Well, I didn't know he was a great basketball player.
And then would serve you waffles when he beat your ass.
Game.
He was, and I've seen a few interviews. Ping pong. He had a love for ping pong.
Well, his mansion was just absolutely, phenomenal. I saw a tour of it one time, and I'm like, my gosh, it had all these like game rooms in and stuff like that. Like the ping pongs, and I think he had a pool table room and just all kinds of stuff in it.
What about you, Nick? What's your first show?
My first show was New Kids on the Block at the Westbury Music Theater. Not because I wanted to go, because I got dragged to go.
Oh, don't lie. You're the one who was begging everyone to go. Don't lie.
I didn't say I didn't have
just own it.
I'm glad that you admitted that. That makes me love you that much more, man.
You cannot help but respect somebody that just throws that out there. I mean, he could have lied and he's like, "Yeah, I went and saw AC/DC." No, he stood out there and said it on the internet. I want to see New Kids on the Block.
My first show was Lee Greenwood.
I'm impressed, Nick. Hey, Lee Greenwood's awesome. I'm not even a country music fan, and I like Lee Greenwood.
Yeah,
I didn't even know who that was. So.
Yeah. I've got a lot of great concert stories after that, like a lot of great shows after. Like I find live music to be one of the parts of my soul. So I really don't have many bad.
Hey, I have seen. I'm seeing in the chat. I saw a Zombie and Marilyn Manson at a show one time before. It was an Ozfest, but they were both on there. But sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to get that.
I saw them at Ozfest too. It might have been 2003.
That sounds about right. It was in that time frame, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty berserk.
I really like Marilyn Manson's music too. Like people are turned off by the spectacle of him, but the music is so sound. Like it's really well put together.
I agree with that. Yep.
I used to be a huge Manson fan until this new stuff came to light with him and it's pretty messed up. So
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I'm a fan of him as a person, but as a performer, the guy kills
catalog.
Yeah, I liked White Zombie. Then I just liked him by himself, but I don't like his movies either. I just like the music. I'm not a fan of the movies he's made.
Okay.
But I think the Monsters is going to be good, though.
I think his movies have been hit or miss. Some of them I really like. Some of them I think are just too goofy. Like, and I think he's going for shock value, but I think he's gone too far at some points.
I think Bill's trolling you, or you got a story to tell here.
Bill is an awesome guy. And honestly, he has one of the best sense of humors. But I actually had backseat passes to the Hanson concert there, Bill. No, I didn't really. I think Hanson was, after my time.
Look at Rob here with KMFDM. Kill motherfucking Depeche Mode. Everybody used to say that stood for. Oh, goodness. Guys, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. So we're going to do like last
It doesn't even feel like it's been that long.
It doesn't. That's the whole point of this show. It's just a fun hangout. Then all of a sudden, it's you got to go to work.
But you guys are awesome. It's just like, I feel like we're just sitting across each other, in the same room, just chit-chatting about life and comics and music and whatever. So this has been a lot of fun.
So it's been great. And I'll get my last question out of the way first. It's a two-parter because I've been asking everyone the first part. But
you have to write this down. It's 2 parts.
I know. First, what has the YouTube community meant to you since you've been in it? Because to me, I've met people like Nick, Kenny, Jason from Slotted Up, and it's just opened a whole new world of friendship to me. And Smalltown Collectibles, I'm not forgetting you, Jimmy. I don't want to hear any hate after. But and the second part is, if you could have a Stan Lee type cameo in any movie that either is going to come out or from the past that you could go in and be in it for like a 20-second Stan Lee cameo, what movie would it be? Like you could be in Superman 78 if you wanted, or
okay. I'm gonna have to get. I already know this one. All right. So the first question, the YouTube community. Listen, the whole comic book community. I'm new to this. I have been a collector since 2003, 2004-ish. But guys, honestly, up until just a couple years ago, this has been a very private type of a hobby for me. There are people in my family, there's people I work with, they had no clue that I collected comic books. I just didn't talk about it. I live, like I said, I live in a rural area of Pennsylvania, a little bit, more than an hour from Pittsburgh. Well, this YouTube community is just opened up, a world of people that think like me and, and collect like me. And I love this community. But what makes it special is it's the support that people give each other. I've never seen such a caring, an outpouring of affection group of people. And it's genuine. You're not seeing people just putting on false pretenses. So the YouTube community to me and comic book community and at large, it's just something that is special. It's unique. And it's just, there are good people and they're positive and they're from all walks of life, everywhere. And nobody cares about that stuff. They just care like, hey, this is a good person and I want to talk to this person. So that's what that means to me. Now, if I could be in a cameo, I want to be in the new movie that I don't even know if it's named yet, but when they start doing Secret Wars, I want to be Dr. Doom. I want to be absolutely maniacal and try to just flip the table and throw the chess pieces everywhere like he did in that, comic book series. It's because I have a little bit of just, that little part of me that just likes to flip the table and try something new. So I don't want a cameo. I want a starring role as Dr. Doom.
Nice. Good way to take it to the next level.
The next level.
What you got for us, buddy?
Okay, Matt. So you would say your favorite character is Conan?
I'm a big Spider-Man fan, but I think they're 1A and 1B.
Okay, so for 1A, 1B, we know you love the character. Well, what's the one trait in each of them that you completely dislike? Is there a trait that you completely dislike?
Spider-Man, his whininess. He has made the choice that he's going to do what's right. He's going to take care of things. Sometimes they have him whine too much. The woe is me. I don't really care for that. I do like his, he always gets back up. I do care about that. Conan, I don't know. I don't drink alcohol, so I don't, but I kind of like that about Conan. So I don't know if that's a negative trait, but I wouldn't tell him to change it. Let's just put it that way, because I wouldn't walk out of that bar alive.
Yeah, I don't think he drinks and drives either, so he should be all right.
That's a good way of looking at it. Okay, so he's not being dangerous.
And he could probably have better bathing habits.
Well, he did live in a Hyborian age, so I think everybody could have had better bathing habits. Just trying to be fair.
Mr. Cap, sir.
Okay. Let's keep it Conan themed, because that has taken up 70% of this show. So,
sorry, Conan.
Ever since I watched Conan the Barbarian as a kid, I have wanted to punch a camel in the face. I can't help it. It's just, if you were,
before you get to your question, I want to make a statement. There was a time that I had to ride this camel, and I had to ride this camel, honestly, probably 50 miles. I hated that animal. It was dirty. It was stinky. It spit on me like 4 times whenever we were taking a break. And it's just this big, lathery, like spit, like boom, right on the chest. Like, if I ever wanted to hit an animal, which I'm not a big fan of hitting any animal whatsoever, but if I ever wanted to hit an animal, that camel absolutely deserved a Conan punch, okay? So I understand you wanting to hit a camel.
Okay. Well, okay. So that was going to be my question. If you had like any kind of deal with a camel, would you want to hit it? So, all right. So, okay.
I kind of answered it in advance. Sorry about that. My bad.
Let's get that. Where do you see your show at, your channel, Matt, in 5 years?
I hope it's the same, because I don't know what my next videos are going to be. I put out 2 a week, and I don't just make things up on the fly. I do put a little bit of effort and thought, and I have a couple ideas that I have for a few weeks out, but it's just my personal journey through the hobby, and I talk to different people and just being genuine. And in 5 years, guys, I don't care if I have 100 subscribers, as long as they interact, and they like to make comments on my videos, and I can have a conversation with people like that. If I can just have that, genuine interaction with people, I'm a happy person. So I don't really have like super plans with it. I'm just having fun with it.
And that's what I like about it too. It's just fun. This is how I de-stress from 2 jobs.
Just flip on a video, and like I used to coach basketball. I quit a couple years ago now. I did that for 20 years, and so I would leave work, at 6:30 in the morning or 6 in the morning, and I wouldn't get home sometimes until 10, 11 at night. And I would just plop down and I would click on a YouTube video about comic books, because it was just a fun topic. Nothing was serious about it, and it just took your mind away and allowed you to de-stress and relax. So I agree with you, Gary. The comic book channels on YouTube are just fun.
Yeah.
All right, so now we'll go through. We'll say our goodbyes. We'll start with Kenny, go to Nick, me, and then Matt. Our guest always gets the last sign off, and then I'll sing us out awkwardly. So, Kenny.
All right. Well,
what have you got?
I'd just like to say that coming up, I have a couple of videos. So I have been on a hiatus. So things are changing. I've revamped the show, kind of, so to speak. So the next episode that will be coming out this weekend, and I will be in the live chats. I have not been in the live chats in weeks, but I will be there this weekend. And this next video is going to be all about how kids have destroyed comic books, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. After that, I got like a massive unboxing. I bought an entire He-Man collection. I'm going to be unboxing that. I'm going to be doing some giveaways. I missed my 400 subscriber giveaway. I'm going to be doing that. And I did not do an August giveaway. And I'm trying to find out another reason to do 3 giveaways at once. So I'm trying to think of another thing to do. So all of the stuff that I will be sending out, that's all from Jimmy, Smalltown Collectibles. That's all him. So other than that, I just recorded today 7 weeks worth of Friday Fun. So starting tomorrow, there will be more Friday Fun where you get the chance to name that song.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, Kenny's quite the talented guitar player.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
But thank you,
Nick.
Nick.
And I just hold comic
Very
book
humble.
Going, look at me. Nick, what have you got coming up, sir?
Nothing, pretty quiet this week. I do want to thank everybody for coming out in the chat. We do appreciate you guys. We love you for coming out and interacting with us. The one thing I do want to point out is the Rogue Trader has a cancer charity auction going on Saturday. I'm going to post his link this weekend in the chat. This Saturday, I believe. Not only is the guy a fantastic cleaner and presser, he offers some of the most amazing books in an auction all at once I've ever seen in my life. So please go check him out. If you guys are keen to just, donate some time, donate some money, and get some great books in return. So,
And a straight up fantastic guy.
yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome.
Love the Rogue Trader. Unfortunately, he's always live when I'm working, but I'm always working, so everybody's always live when I'm working.
He does those sneaky little quick ones too. So,
all right. So I got, of course, Savage Saturday coming up this week. I'll probably take tomorrow off and just do my Conan cover a day video short, and that'll be it. And we got Sunday shout outs coming. I already got a list of people I'm shouting out, so we'll get that out there. Other than that, I just want to thank Matt for coming on the show. It was great not only to have another Conan fan on, but a generally great gentleman. Matt, thanks for coming on and classing us up a little bit. We certainly appreciate you, sir. And we'll leave the goodbye to you. Shout outs.
Guys, I want to say thank you very much for having me here, on the hot seat with the usual suspects. Love this show. This is just entertaining, and at least this is where we get to know each other. I saw a lot of my subscribers in the chat. Guys, please make sure you sub up to everybody that's here in the panel because they are great YouTubers. My channel got a few videos coming out. I don't have one coming out for this weekend. I might actually be starting a new channel here soon where I move all of my content from my current channel to a different channel because I was told that I kind of had to move my videos. But I don't know if that's going to happen, sooner or later, but that might happen eventually. That was just something I found out today. But guys, I want to thank you for having me on. It has been an honor, and I absolutely appreciate talking to you guys.
Pleasure was all ours.
thank you, sir.
Guys, until next time, people in the chat, thank you, and keep it casual. Awkward ending, awkward ending.